Early the next morning, after ensuring Jordan was safe under the watchful eye of the police, Maya ventured out into the city streets. Her heart pounded with fear, but also with a sense of purpose. She headed to see Terrence, an old contact of Marcus's who ran a small underground nightclub known for its shady dealings. Marcus had once mentioned that if he ever needed to disappear, Terrence was the person to talk to. The club was in a run-down part of town, a place where people minded their own business and looked the other way. Maya hesitated for a moment before stepping inside. The dim lights and heavy bass of the music filled the air with tension. She could feel eyes on her as she moved through the crowd, but she ignored them. She had one goal: to find Marcus and put an end to this once and for all. Maya spotted Terrence in the back of the dimly lit club, sitting in a booth with his men. He was large, with a sharp gaze that missed nothing. Taking a deep breath, Maya approached him. "Terrence," she said firmly, masking her fear, "I need your help." Terrence raised an eyebrow, looking her up and down. Well, if it isn't Marcus's old flame, what brings you to my club?" "I'm looking for Marcus. He's missing, and people are after him. I need to find him before they do." Terrence leaned back, a slow smile spreading across his face. "And why should I help you? What's in it for me?" Maya stared him down. "Because if Marcus goes down, so do you. Whoever's after him won't stop until they've cleaned up every loose end. Help me find him, and maybe we all walk away from this." Terrence studied her, then nodded slightly. "You've got guts. I'll help, but if Marcus is in deep, this won't be easy. You'd better be ready for what's coming." "I'm ready," Maya said, though the knot in her stomach told her otherwise. Terrence gave her a name and an address, a place where Marcus had been hiding, off the radar. As she left, Maya felt a surge of hope mixed with dread. She was getting closer, but she didn't know what awaited her on the other side. The address led Maya to a dilapidated building on the outskirts of the city. As the sun set, casting long shadows over the crumbling structure, she felt the weight of the situation settle on her shoulders. There was no turning back now. She knocked on the door, her heart racing. After what felt like an eternity, the door creaked open. There stood Marcus, disheveled and on edge. "Maya?" he asked, a mix of surprise and fear in his voice. "What are you doing here?" "I came to find you," she said, stepping inside quickly and closing the door behind her. "You're in danger, Marcus, and so am I." Marcus ran a hand through his hair, clearly frustrated. "I know. I didn't want to drag you into this, but things got out of control. I thought I could handle it." "Well, you can't," Maya snapped, her anger surfacing. "People are coming after you, Marcus. They showed up at my house. I'm not waiting around to see what happens next. You need to tell me everything." Marcus sat down heavily, his face grim. "I got involved with a criminal syndicate. I owe them money, a lot of money. I thought I could pay them off, but they don't work like that. Now they're hunting me and anyone connected to me." Maya's heart sank. "So what do we do now?" "I've been trying to get enough cash to pay them off, but it's not enough. They want blood." Maya felt the weight of the words. Just as the reality of the situation sank in, there was a loud crash outside. Marcus froze, exchanging a look of horror with Maya. "They found me," Marcus whispered. The door burst open, and 3 men stormed in. Maya recognized the man leading them. It was the same one who had come to her house, the enforcer. Cold and calculating, his eyes locked on Marcus. "You've been a hard man to find," the enforcer said with a chilling smile. Marcus raised his hands. "I'll pay you. Just give me more time." The enforcer shook his head. Time's up. Maya's heart pounded as the situation spiraled out of control. The men had no intention of leaving without making Marcus, and possibly her, pay for his mistakes. There was no reasoning with them. Summoning all her courage, Maya grabbed a heavy lamp from the table and swung it at the nearest man. The surprise attack gave Marcus a split second to act, and together they fought desperately. But the odds weren't in their favor. Just when it seemed the fight would end in tragedy, the sound of sirens filled the air. The room was flooded with blue and red lights as the police arrived. The enforcers scattered, knowing their time was up. Maya collapsed to the floor, gasping for breath as Officer Collins and his team stormed in, securing the scene. It was over. Maya sat in the corner, her heart still racing as the flashing lights and the chaos slowly began to fade away. She had fought to survive, but the danger wasn't entirely behind her. Not yet. As the police secured the scene, cuffing the enforcers and detaining Marcus, Officer Collins approached Maya. His calm, reassuring presence cut through the whirlwind of emotions raging inside her. "Are you okay?" Collins asked, kneeling beside her. Maya nodded, though she felt far from it. The past few hours had been a blur of fear, violence, and uncertainty. "I didn't know what else to do," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I was just trying to protect us." "You did the right thing," Collins reassured her. "But this situation spiraled beyond anything you could handle alone. We'll get Marcus to safety and make sure these guys face justice." Maya glanced at Marcus, sitting handcuffed on the floor, his face a mixture of exhaustion and relief. He had been running from his mistakes for too long, and now it seemed his past had finally caught up with him. Maya felt a strange sense of closure, but also overwhelming sadness. "I'm sorry," Marcus said softly, meeting Maya's gaze. "I never wanted to put you in danger." Maya's emotions were tangled. Part of her wanted to be angry, to lash out at him for dragging her and Jordan into this nightmare. But another part, the part that once loved Marcus, knew he had been trying to protect her in his own way. She didn't know what to feel. "It's over now," she said, though the weight of everything still pressed heavily on her. "We just have to move forward." In the days that followed, Maya and Jordan were moved back to their home under police protection as the investigation into the criminal syndicate unfolded. Officer Collins kept a close watch, ensuring their safety from any lingering threats. Maya tried to return to some semblance of normalcy, but nothing felt the same. Marcus remained in police custody, facing charges for his involvement with the syndicate. He agreed to cooperate with authorities in exchange for leniency, but it would be a long road ahead for him. Maya visited him once, unsure of what to say but feeling the need to close the chapter between them. "You didn't have to come," Marcus said when she walked into the visiting room, his voice filled with remorse. "I don't deserve it." "I know," Maya replied, sitting down across from him, "but I needed to see you. I needed to understand why." Marcus sighed, leaning back in his chair. "I got caught up in the wrong things. After I lost my job, I felt like a failure. I wanted to make it up to you and Jordan, but I made every wrong choice. By the time I realized what I was involved in, it was too late." Maya nodded, her heart heavy. "I don't know if I can forgive you, but I hope you find a way to fix your life." Marcus looked down at his hands. "I'm going to try. I don't want Jordan to grow up thinking I ran away from everything." They sat in silence for a moment before Maya stood to leave. As she walked away, she realized that while Marcus's chapter in her life was closing, she still had so much to fight for. Weeks turned into months, and slowly, life began to regain a sense of normalcy. Maya continued working hard to support Jordan, but now with a renewed sense of purpose. She no longer felt trapped by her circumstances. The investigation into the syndicate uncovered more corruption than anyone had anticipated, and many of those who had threatened her and Marcus were now behind bars. Officer Collins became a more regular presence in Maya's life. At first, it was strictly professional. He was ensuring her safety and keeping her informed about the case. But, over time, Maya realized that Collins had become someone she could rely on, someone who genuinely cared about her and Jordan. One evening, after a particularly long day, Collins stopped by with takeout and a warm smile. "I figured you could use a break," he said, handing her a bag of food. Maya laughed softly, the weight of the world feeling just a little lighter. "You always know when to show up." They sat together on the couch, eating in comfortable silence. Jordan had fallen asleep in his room, and for the first time in a long time, Maya felt like things might finally be okay. Maya felt a sense of peace. Officer Collins had become more than just her protector. He'd become a friend, someone who understood her struggles and stood by her side without judgment. As they talked and laughed, Maya found herself thinking about the future in a way she hadn't dared to before. She didn't know where things with Collins might go, but for the first time, she allowed herself to dream of something better. Months later, the final trial for the criminal syndicate concluded. Marcus received a reduced sentence due to his cooperation with the authorities. Maya had mixed feelings about the outcome. She didn't wish ill on Marcus, but his choices had deeply hurt her and Jordan. She hoped he would use his time to reflect and rebuild. As for Maya, life had taken a surprising turn. With Collins' support, she had enrolled in a program to help single mothers find better-paying jobs. She was working fewer hours now, with more stability, which gave her precious time to spend with Jordan. One day, while sitting at the park watching Jordan play, Maya thought back to who she had been just a year ago. Tired, struggling, and hopeless. So much had changed, and while life was still challenging, it was filled with hope and possibilities she hadn't dared to imagine. Officer Collins sat beside her, watching Jordan with a smile. "You've come a long way," he said. Maya looked at him, grateful. "I couldn't have done it without you." He shrugged modestly. "You did most of the work. I just showed up." They shared a quiet laugh, and for the first time in a long time, Maya believed that things were going to be okay. The struggles weren't over, but Maya had learned that she had the strength to face whatever came next. And with Collins by her side, she knew she wasn't alone anymore. As the sun set over the park, Maya stood up and called Jordan over. It was time to head home to their new life, a life where hope had finally found a place to grow. In the days that followed, Maya's life became filled with a kind of peace she had almost forgotten existed. The constant grind of juggling 5 jobs, always wondering if she'd make it to the next day, now felt like a distant memory. But it wasn't just the absence of struggle that mattered. It was the presence of something new. Hope. Maya's new job allowed her to spend evenings at home with Jordan. They cooked dinner together, laughed, and talked about his day at school. Sometimes Officer Collins would join them, and his presence had become something Maya looked forward to more than she had expected. Their bond had deepened, not only because of the turmoil they had been through, but also from the quiet, peaceful moments that followed. One evening, as they sat around the dinner table, Collins brought up something that caught Maya off guard. "Have you ever thought about going back to school?" he asked, looking at her with a seriousness that showed he wasn't just making small talk. Maya blinked, the question hanging in the air. Back to school? For what? I don't know. Collins shrugged, but you've got a lot of potential. You're smart, hard-working, and you deserve a chance to do something for yourself, something that will give you a real future. In the days that followed, Maya's life became filled with a kind of peace she had almost forgotten existed. The constant grind of juggling 5 jobs, always wondering if she'd make it to the next day, now felt like a distant memory. But it wasn't just the absence of struggle that mattered. It was the presence of something new. Hope. Maya's new job allowed her to spend evenings at home with Jordan. They cooked dinner together, laughed, and talked about his day at school. Sometimes Officer Collins would join them, and his presence had become something Maya looked forward to more than she had expected. Their bond had deepened, not only because of the turmoil they had been through, but also from the quiet, peaceful moments that followed. One evening, as they sat around the dinner table, Collins brought up something that caught Maya off guard. "Have you ever thought about going back to school?" he asked, looking at her with a seriousness that showed he wasn't just making small talk. Maya blinked, the question hanging in the air. Back to school? For what? I don't know. Collins shrugged, but you've got a lot of potential. You're smart, hard-working, and you deserve a chance to do something for yourself, something that will give you a real future. The more Maya thought about going back to school, the more it felt less like a far-off fantasy and more like a real possibility. With Collins' help, she found programs that offered flexible schedules, knowing she couldn't afford to quit working. One night, while scrolling through potential courses, Maya came across something that caught her interest: a social work program. As she read the details, she felt an unexpected connection. The idea of helping others, people like her who had faced impossible situations, stirred something deep inside her. She thought about all the times she had felt alone, burdened by the weight of the world. She could be the one to help someone else through that. It gave her struggles a deeper meaning. The decision came quickly after that. Maya applied to the program and, within a month, had been accepted. She stood in her kitchen, staring at the acceptance letter in disbelief. It was really happening. Jordan, sensing his mother's excitement, asked, "What's going on, Mom?" Maya crouched down, her heart swelling with pride. "Mommy's going back to school. I'm going to learn how to help people, just like Officer Collins helped us." Jordan's face lit up. "That's amazing. You're going to be a superhero." Maya laughed, feeling warmth from his words. Maybe she wasn't a superhero, but she was becoming someone who could make a difference, and that was enough. Enrolling in the social work program was the easy part. Balancing school, work, and motherhood was the real challenge. Maya's days became a whirlwind of classes, assignments, work shifts, and late nights helping Jordan with homework. Despite the exhaustion, there was something fulfilling about this new chapter of her life. Collins remained a constant support. He would stop by after his shifts, sometimes with dinner, other times just to keep her company while she worked on assignments. Their friendship had grown into something deeper, though neither had fully acknowledged it. One evening, after a long day, Collins sat with Maya in her living room, watching Jordan play with his toys nearby. Maya rubbed her temples, trying to shake off the fatigue. "You look like you need a break," Collins said, handing her a cup of tea. Maya sighed, smiling gratefully. "You're not wrong. It's a lot, but I wanted this. You don't have to do it alone, you know," Collins said gently. "I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." The sincerity in his voice made Maya's heart skip. She had spent so long being independent, shouldering everything on her own. But with Collins, she didn't feel the same need to do it all alone. He was offering her more than help. He was offering her partnership. Maya met his gaze, her heart full. I know, and I'm grateful for that. Over the next few months, Maya thrived in her social work program. She learned more than she ever imagined and discovered a passion she hadn't known she had. Her professors noticed her dedication, and her classmates often turned to her for advice. Jordan, too, was flourishing. He loved school, had made new friends, and often boasted about how his mom was going to help people. One evening, after a long day of studying, Maya sat down with Collins and Jordan for a quiet dinner. They laughed and talked like a family, a real family, and for the first time in years, Maya felt like she wasn't just surviving, but truly living. Looking around the table, she realized how far she had come. She had fought through the darkest moments of her life and emerged stronger. With Collins by her side and Jordan growing up happy and healthy, the future felt wide open. As they finished dinner, Jordan looked up and asked, "Mom, do you think everything will stay this good?" Maya smiled softly, her heart full. "I think we've been through enough to know that no matter what happens, we'll be okay. We've got each other, and that's what matters." And as the evening settled around them, Maya felt, for the first time in a long while, that everything was going to be just fine. As Maya and Collins built their new life together, it seemed like everything was finally falling into place. But life had one more challenge in store. One afternoon, while Maya was at work, she received a call from Jordan's school. Her heart raced as she answered, fearing the worst. The school nurse informed her that Jordan had fainted during recess. Maya's hands trembled as she rushed to the school, her mind spinning with fear. At the hospital, the doctors ran several tests. Maya sat by Jordan's side, holding his hand tightly as they waited for answers. Collins arrived soon after, his presence easing her nerves, though the deep worry lingered. Hours later, the doctor returned with a somber expression. "Jordan has anemia. It's not life-threatening, but it explains the fainting. We'll need to adjust his diet and put him on supplements to boost his iron levels." Relief washed over Maya, but the medical bills loomed large. Despite her stable job, healthcare costs weighed heavily on her. For a moment, it felt like she was slipping back into the financial uncertainty she had fought so hard to escape. Collins, sensing her worry, took her hand. "You're not alone in this, Maya. We'll figure it out together." His words reassured her, but Maya knew she needed to stay strong for Jordan, just as she always had. In the days following Jordan's diagnosis, Maya and Collins adjusted their lives to prioritize his health. Maya researched meal plans and ensured that Jordan took his supplements on time. Collins was by her side every step of the way, offering love and support, making Maya realize just how much she could depend on him. Jordan, resilient as ever, adapted quickly. He followed his mom's instructions, eager to feel better and get back to playing with his friends. His spirit gave Maya strength. Maya continued with her social work studies, balancing school with Jordan's needs. It wasn't easy, but every time she felt overwhelmed, she reminded herself of how far she had come. She wasn't the woman juggling 5 jobs anymore. She was someone who could handle anything life threw at her, for herself and for Jordan. One evening, as they sat on the couch together, Jordan leaned against his mother. "Mom, I'm proud of you. You do so much and you never give up." Maya smiled through the tears that welled up in her eyes. "You're the reason I keep going, baby. You and this life we've built." Collins, sitting next to them, smiled at the sight of the two. He had watched Maya transform over the past months, and his admiration for her grew deeper every day. "I have something to ask you both," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. Maya and Jordan looked at him, curious. Collins took a deep breath. "I've been thinking about this for a while. I can't imagine my life without either of you. Maya, I love you. I love Jordan. I want to build a future with both of you. Will you marry me?" The room fell silent as Maya's heart raced. For so long, she had been afraid to rely on anyone, afraid of being let down. But Collins had been there through everything, and his love had never wavered. He had become family in every sense of the word. Tears filled her eyes as she smiled. "Yes, Collins, I'll marry you." Jordan's face lit up with excitement, and he jumped into Collins' arms. "We're going to be a real family." Collins waited at the altar, his eyes never leaving Maya as she walked down the aisle. Memories of her struggles flooded her mind. The long nights working 5 jobs, the fear of not being enough, the uncertainty of the future. But now, each step toward Collins was a step into a new chapter. A chapter of hope, love, and the future she had fought so hard to build. After the ceremony, as they celebrated with laughter and joy, Maya realized that the life she had now wasn't a stroke of luck. It had been built on perseverance, faith, and the kindness of others who had believed in her potential, even when she couldn't see it herself. Collins took her hand as they watched Jordan play with the other children. "We did it," he said softly. Maya smiled. "We did, and we'll keep doing it, together." The road ahead would still have its challenges, but Maya knew that with Collins and Jordan by her side, there was nothing she couldn't face. She was no longer just surviving. She was thriving, and for the first time in her life, she believed that anything was possible. A year later, Maya stood at a small altar in a park under the warm afternoon sun. The wedding was simple, surrounded by close friends and co-workers who had watched her journey. Jordan stood beside her, beaming in his role as ring-bearer.